Hey, what's going on, everybody? Matt with Laythrom Media. We're inside Photoshop, and we're going to be talking about how to put text on a path, or text on a curve, text on a shape, curvy text, how to curve that text, and all that other good stuff. Um, Basically, the same concept wrapped around different terminology, for the lack of a better term. But either way, I do want to point out that this may be a little bit longer as far as videos are concerned. I try and keep my videos short, but this one has a few different ways to go about doing this. So it's going to be a little bit longer, but fret not. In the description below, I am going to have timestamps for each process. So if you wanted to skip ahead, that's perfectly fine. That's up to you. If you want to watch the entire video, rock out. I'd appreciate it, but if not, I do not blame you one bit. So first things first, we're going to actually talk about the quote unquote like word art version of text manipulation inside Photoshop. Anybody who's played around with Microsoft Office products knows exactly what I'm talking about. So if I drop some kind of text here, right smack in the middle of my screen, and look up here, we have a T with a little curvy line underneath of it. That's our warp text tool. If you click on that, it gives you some presets where you can go ahead and warp out, the text that you have down there, manipulate it, play with it, fancy spancy. It reminds me of word art inside of like, PowerPoint or Word or whatnot. Um, in lower percentages, it's not bad. It's a quick and dirty way to go about doing it. But if you're trying to wrap, like text around a circle, forget about it. I mean, it just starts warping the crap out of it, and it looks ugly. It's not worth the hassle or the headache. I mean, if that's a stylized look that you want, you can go that route. But let's be honest, guys, it doesn't look that great. So, yeah, it's up to you, but I would advise against it. Now that we've discussed that, we can go ahead and delete our Laurel Ipsum, and we can get into the meat and potatoes of this. So there's two different methods about doing this. One is using the pen tool. The other one is using a primitive shape tool. Each one has like a little sub method, for lack of a better term. And it is literally like, method 1A and 1B, 2A, 2B. So starting out with 1A, quote unquote, we hit P on the keyboard, or you just come up here to the icon right above your text tool. That is the pen. Click on that guy, and this is where this AB comes into play. So shape is going to be 1A, or method 1A, and path is going to be method 1B. As it applies, we're going to start off with method 1A. If we had to break this down outline style, and we're just going to draw a shape. The reason why I'm kind of dividing it that way is it kind of does things a little bit differently, but not too drastically. It is something that you need to keep in mind whenever you're doing it. So we have our little shape here, nothing too fancy. We can go ahead and click our text tool, and you could do a couple different things here. I will bring it up. As you can see here, we have our goofy little eye cursor with the square, the dotted square going around it. If you come inside of a shape, you can see it changes to a dotted circle. Basically, if you click in there, it will try and keep the text inside of that shape. All right. Depending on your font size and whatnot, it may not work out that well. You have to play around with it in order to get it to look the way you want. But I did kind of want to bring that up so you understand there's more than one option here. You have the inside, and then what we're going to talk about, which is if you hover on the edge of a shape, it gives you this little eye with a squiggle going through it, or a curved line going through it. If you click on that, it will drop, in this case, since it's a shape, it'll drop text all the way around the perimeter of the shape. So we could do Laythrom Media LTD, hit the little check mark up here to apply our text, and it's actually not that bad. But we'll say, for the sake of argument, we wanted to move this Laythrom Media down into this valley a little bit more of our curve, or or of our shape, I should say. In order to do that, right below your text tool, if you click and hold, you have the ability to choose path selection or direct selection. We're going to go ahead and hit path selection. And if you come up and hover above your text, you'll get that little eye with two little arrows on either side of it. That allows you to, if you click and drag, that allows you to move it wherever you want. I don't know why it's doing a glitch occasionally whenever I drag stuff around. I will talk to you, or we'll explain this whole method of dragging things inside and out. I like to do that when it comes into ellipses or circles. It's a little bit easier for me to explain, so we'll do it then. One of the biggest things that I want to bring up with this, with using a shape and dropping text on the shape perimeter, is that it's two different items. If you look down in our layer window, you can see there's two different things going on here. We have our text and we have our shape. Now, if I turn the visibility of our shape off, and just click on our text, you'll notice that not a lot is going on. I mean, it's literally just a text box until we come up to our path selection. If we click on our path selection tool, you'll see it keeps the path of our shape. Problem is, it's not dynamically linked to each other anymore. They're two independent entities. For the lack of a better term, the easiest way for me to explain it is shape one is your fill, and your actual text is utilizing a hidden stroke medium of that original shape. The reason I bring this up is if you try and manipulate, if you go in here and you go to your direct selection tool and you want to manipulate, your shape later on. So I don't like the way this curve is. I'm going to drag it out here. Now, as you can see, our curve updated perfectly fine. The text, on the other hand, did not. That's because we're running two different things. So you have to click on the text and then drag your curve out. Yeah, bad edit. Let's try that again. There we go. So you would have to update this manually. It doesn't automatically do it. Could be a good thing, could also be a bad thing, depending on how you want to look at it and how your workflow is. That's why I bring it up. It's just something to keep in mind. Secondly, in regards to text on a text on a shape, I don't know of any quick and easy ways to offset text from said shape. So, I mean, you literally have to pick your text and move it around, nudge it here and there to get something that looks the way you want. I do wish there was an ability to offset it, whether or not it's as you're picking your shape, there was an offset X distance or something like that. I mean, if there is and somebody knows about it, please, for the love of everything, tell me, because I can't even describe how many times that would be used by me, how helpful. But unfortunately, I do not know of a way to offset that a certain distance. Okay, method 1B is same thing. We're using the pen tool, but we're using path instead of a shape. So, yeah, you can draw a shape that's not closed, but if you don't want the shape to be visible, you could just do a path. So we just draw it out our little line here, nothing fancy to it. We can go down here, click on our text tool, click on our path, and do the same thing. Now, as you can see with a path, since it's not closed and it's not doing it across an entire perimeter, it's only showing laythrom right now. There's actually more to it, but you can't see it. So if you come back down here to your path selection tool, you have, as you're hovering above the text, you have the arrows on either side. perfectly fine. If you come to the very beginning, you'll notice that your little eye cursor has only one arrow, and the arrow on the right hand side. If you come to the end, you'll see the arrows on the left hand side. This is basically your start and end points. So you have the ability to click and drag that out, and it will show the rest of whatever text you have in there. And then you can go through and click on your double arrows and drag it wherever you want. From here, like if you go ahead and click on anything, get rid of it, you'll notice that it is literally just the text. There's no shapes, visible shapes, that is. It's just using a path, nothing special to it, but it is pretty easy to go about doing. Lastly, we have method 2A and 2B, which is the same concept as far as path and shape is concerned, but we're going to be using the, primitive preset of the ellipse tool. So we're going to go ahead, click on that, and we're going to come up here to shape, and we're going to go ahead, click, drag, and if you want it to be symmetrical to where the height and length are the same, hold your shift key and drag it out. It'll make sure that it stays the same, so it's not all egg shape or anything like that. Same concept applies if you click on your text tool. You could do inside the shape, or you could do on the perimeter of the shape. Now this is where I'm going to bring up the inside outside as far as moving your text around. So if we come back down here to our path selection tool, we're going to go ahead and just drag this to the center of our circle, so it's kind of symmetrical left and right. But if you click and hold as you're dragging left and right, you can also drag up and down. So if I start dragging down, and this is cursor specific or cursor dependent or whatever you want to call it. So if I start dragging down, you'll notice that it snaps to the inside up at the top. And if I drag down some more, it'll snap to the inside at the bottom. And if I drag down some more, it'll snap to the outside at the bottom. So it's just something to keep in mind. And it allows you to drag it not only left and right, but also up and down in relation to where you want it. Or I should say, depending on where you want it in relation to your shape, whether it's inside or outside, top or bottom. Same issue applies to this as far as you have two different things going on. You have your ellipse shape, and then you have your text path. They're not dynamically linked together either. So just like I said with the pen tool, you got to keep that in mind. Finally, we have going back to the ellipse tool, we can do path. Same thing, drag it out, hold shift, it'll be symmetrical. But instead of our shape, we get an actual path. That'll allow us to manipulate this a little bit without seeing any of the other stuff that we don't want. So if you wanted like graphics to go on a vehicle and it had to flow with the organics of or the curves of the vehicle and whatnot, if you're doing like vehicle graphics, if you needed to curve around a logo for like web design or whatnot, it's all relative. It's just how you go about doing it. I do want to mention one thing before I get off of here. If you come into your direct selection tool and you click on the path that you're using, you can manipulate this to your heart's content, just like you can with the pen tool, and it will update the text automatically for your path. But that's all I have. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, feel free to drop them in the comment box below. And until the next video, I'll catch you guys later.